Okay, I've got it, I think.
Excellent. Okay, so today I am with 4 excellent people to celebrate my 500 subscriber. Six of excellent people. Actually, no, 5 because you can't include. Oh no, never mind. Wolf's gone. Down to 4 again. Well, anyway, it's a 500 subscribers celebration.
In my shit lord voice, I say, well, actually, I identify as 2 people.
Oh no!
Wow, you really found that funny.
You're gonna start joining the right now anarchists. You're gonna end up on one of those like, I left the left. Here's why.
Oh yeah.
This is why I left the left. Well, I did say in my shit lord voice.
I did hear that, yeah.
You'll make quite a lot of money. They all do seem to somehow.
They've got really rich people backing them. Unsurprisingly,
See, I could make a lot of money, but if I wanted to make a lot of money, I could also be involved with my family's missile company. But
I mean, like, the thing is that, like, you know, you could probably just like make videos. Like, I used to be a radical leftist, and then like you could like get like Reason or like Prager to hire you, and they'll like put out videos. You'll get a bunch of money for saying like nonsense, like Christina Hoff Sommers does. So
yeah,
or Steven Crowder.
Oh, Steven Crowder. What was it again?
Thing.
I have actual
Democratic
fucking family members.
Yeah. Not socialism. Socialism.
Oh my god!
I mean,
that
like
PragerU video.
I mean, like, you can make fun of that all you want, but does socialism not lead to communism? Checkmate.
Does communism not lead to the death of millions by famine?
I think you meant billions.
Famines all are the fault of communism, but when they happen in India, it's just the fault of the brown people.
The really rigorous stuff was when he like dressed in drag and went into a woman's bathroom and like, this is what red people do. Get wrecked.
You know, fucking my cousin who her she's been having issues with her relationship with her mother. Her mother has kind of like when talking about like trans issues, especially when dealing with like non-binary or more gender fluid people, talking about issues of gender because, her and her girlfriend are having a baby by IVF, brought up that, well, they were going to raise the kid gender neutral. And, of course, bringing up the subject, bringing up like the reasons behind it, my aunt starts going into like literally literally just fucking parrot Steven Crowder talking points, which, she didn't know how to combat them because my cousin didn't know how to combat them because, she wasn't familiar with Crowder. But I was like, oh, I know exactly where that talking point comes from because, I spend too much time on the goddamn internet.
Well, I mean, I think to be fair, there's actually a level of sort of importance with combating people like that because whether we like to admit it or not, social media is a big thing in today's society. It's how far-right groups that are, prominent in government now sort of got their roots. It's how Trump was able to sort of ride the wave of fascist and neo-Nazi movements to get into the White House.
Also how,
getting...
Also how, he was able to, like, basically he's been waging, like, ever since he got elected, he's been waging a war on, like, basically the concept with his Twitter account. So,
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I just wanted to say hello to you, Wolf. Noticed you joined essentially right after we started. I didn't get a chance to say hi. So, in fact, everyone introduce yourself because I don't actually think I did, being the terrific host I am.
Obviously, I'm the one of the few with the exotic accent. Everyone else is in the so all the other lovely ladies and gents are from the United States. So I'm from
Canada.
So I'm from Australia, and yeah, I operate my lonely little channel.
You can blame him for having my channel, even though I haven't done much on my channel in like a month. But I'm going to go back to my channel. Hello, I'm Some Random Geek. I'm Jonathan Scott. That's my real name. And you can tell I have a Mega Man hat. No, I did not make it myself. I bought it off of, I think, geek.com. And so I'm not the crochet person. No, my family members are, but no. I can't. So sorry, Lumluth, I cannot join you in the Stitch and Bitch session online or stuff like that.
It's so easy. It's so easy to learn, though.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Well, we all know Lonely Wolf. You know, Lonely Wolf's like a ninja with crochet needles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just stab. He can stab that jugular like really quickly with a crochet needle.
Yeah, 99 problems.
You know what? One moment you're fine, next moment you're on the ground bleeding out.
Yeah, so what is it? 99 problems, and a stitch ain't one of them.
How is your I know that winter is coming in Australia.
It's a little bit cold. I'm feeling a little bit cold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you know, it was like fucking 90 degrees earlier for me today. Can we fucking switch places? You know, you can come to you can come to America when it's winter for you, and I can go to Australia when it's summer for me. So.
I mean,
can we do a timeshare?
The good thing about it getting cold there is that like you probably won't have as many like really weird and scary bugs. And I know there's a lot of them.
Not just
that is true, but you know,
everything.
We do have Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Florida's not as bad as Australia.
Florida, I've been to Florida. Florida has like brown recluses and that kind of thing, but like it's got nothing on Australia. They're like
it's not
like
even
literal.
Just it's the
I say we give Australia to the Krogans.
Yeah, you can just have never mind. I had a thought in my head, but I lost it. I lost the name of the one songwriter who said like "screw the rest of the world," but let's keep Australia or something like that. Randy Newman. Now remember, Randy Newman says we can keep Australia. They have surfing too, but he says blow up the rest of the world, which unfortunately, when you think about it, is like some people's political ideology. Anyway,
blow up the rest of the world.
Yeah, Posadism. Yeah, I don't. You guys must be like a bunch of. You guys must be a bunch of like lame terrestrial leftists. You got to get on the higher plane.
Well, some people.
I'm fine going there.
Critical solidarity with dolphins.
Yeah. We don't even. Apparently, we don't even exist as a country, according to some of the like the conspiracy theory nuts.
Well, some of the flat earthers, you know.
Didn't like the flat Earth Society? Didn't the Flat Earth Society say that like Australia doesn't exist or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like paid.
Which is funny because I'm assuming Australia has its own contingent of flat earthers, and I'm just trying to imagine them being like, "Well, you don't exist."
Yeah, probably.
You know, the Australian flat earthers are like, "Well, actually, you don't exist."
I was under the impression that flat earthers also believe there were like hidden continents that the government is like keeping us from.
It's gonna be
they're hiding Atlantis from us. Oh yeah,
I actually have the privilege of like my dad's friend is a flat earther, and I've argued with him about this on multiple occasions. But basically, like his theory is like basically like the devil. Because he's like a fundamentalist Christian. It's like basically the devil. His theory is the devil is like controlling the government, like hide the fact that there's like the earth is flat from us, and like this evil plot, and like
how convenient.
All the like NASA is just basically this like, you know, organization that does the work of the devil and covers up the flat earth and like, you know, creates these like fake like satellite pictures. It's pretty he explained the flat Earth to me using like an orange and a bowl in my kitchen. It was pretty funny.
You know what's fun? Do you know what I find really funny is that I've like apparently some flat earthers accept that there are other planets and all the other planets are spheres. It's just not, but ours isn't like.
So do they think that like
do
we're
you not
the
know how
center of
gravity
the
works?
do they think that we're at the center of the universe or something, and like everything's just sort of moving around us?
But I mean, then it's also like,
okay,
do you not know how gravity works?
They believe that gravity doesn't exist, right? And so in lieu of gravity, they believe that like basically
we stick to the floor with a pace.
They have to like acknowledge that there's like some force keeping us like pegged to the ground. They make up like another like force that like basically sucks people down, but it's not gravity. Something different than gravity for some reason.
God's just under the earth with a straw sucking in air. And that's what's keeping us down.
Yeah.
But you can't find the straw because the straw's in the middle of the ocean under the water.
But what would happen then if one of these earthers went?
Don't make me explain it. I haven't thought it out yet.
It is just incredible how these people can exist, and then you realise that at the same time,
you realise it's unfalsifiable bullshit.
But it's
completely unscientific, of course.
And like it's like laughable when it's like this. Then when you change the topic to something more sort of politically relevant, it becomes suddenly you get legions of these people who are like, oh no, my obviously wrong and clearly ridiculous idea is actually holds weight. Like for instance, climate change and global warming, and the sort of swarms of people who are just like professor in any sort of scientific field saying, oh actually, there's no such thing as climate change. There's no human enforced change on the planet. And then you look at who's funding them, and it's like some oil company or
Exxon Mobil.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's global. We actually have global cooling.
Well, we're in our warming phase. No, we're in our warming phase. We're in the natural phase where it's like our planet is warmer than usual, as opposed to like 150 years ago or 1,000 years ago. It's like I forgot the theory.
Some of them don't even recognize that. Some of them like make up like false statistics where it's like actually it's getting colder every year. It's like what?
We're gonna have
CO2 and water vapors.
Well, they rely upon basic ignorance of the idea as well. They'll be like, it'll be cold in winter, so it's like, oh, well, you see, it's all a lie. Global warming isn't happening.
Like Trump said, well, it's
how's their global
White House, so it's not no global warming.
Yeah. How's there global warming if I can go outside and make a snowball?
Exactly. And then people who literally have had no other influence to the idea beyond just some ridiculous conservative hack that's sort of telling them about it in that sort of term, they'll just easily buy into it, which is why people like Steven Crowder accrue such a following, because it turns out in America and in other countries, to be fair, there's a massive body of people who don't receive any other input. It's how like you get Trump getting so much support in like religious little communities in Middle America and stuff,
or just rural places in general. Yeah,
even though his policies are very hostile to their interests.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or like environmental policies that are destroying the planet.
Well, it's much easier to blame the Jews than it is to actually address the problem.
The thing I want to add about Trump is that, like, while I do think there's like definitely like a large a big part of it is like white people feeling the effects of the economic crisis, and then also recognizing that they've lost like the control they had over other groups through like struggles for color. Like, well, there's like that's a definite part of it. There's also like the media did like a really like good job overstating this like point about like the white working class voting against their interests. And like the thing is that like if you look at the actual numbers for the people that supported Trump, like they were like middle class to like kind of wealthy people. Like it wasn't he didn't have this white working class base that the media claimed he did.
He did manage to attract some people from the white working class, specifically in the Rust Belt, where his economic, like he did run on a platform of like opposing the effects of NAFTA. He did run on that sort of thing. He said, okay, we'll keep Medicaid, that sort of thing. And so he was able to win like Rust Belt type of people.
But even then, I wouldn't even like. I don't even see the
or even a majority. But in that region, he was able to win enough of them that he was able to.
Yeah, there were.
But I don't even see the. I don't even see the idea of the white working class, the particularly legitimate one either. To be honest, because like white is hardly a. It's not exactly a brilliant broad stroke term to describe the economic demographics of an entire country. You look at those places, and yeah, it's true that lots of white people did vote for Trump, but lots of people also didn't vote at all, which is hard.
That's
like you look at a politician like Hillary Clinton, who's just this completely corporate, awful politician who doesn't even bother showing up in your state because she just assumes. Like
that was the thing. That was the thing that the Democrats kind of failed on with the last election. Like that was their giant blunder, is because like, and that's part of like why they're going on about Russiagate now, and why they're like they pushed that point really hard of the white working class voting against its interests. They're trying to blame anybody but the Democratic Party for their loss.
Yeah, and their corporate.
Oh yeah, it's not the neoliberals' fault; it's the working class's fault.
Like the Democratic Party screwed their own pooch, because basically they like Bernie, a person who had any chance of defeating Trump, and they orchestrated like the DNC so that he would basically be pushed out. He would like lose, like, or like so that they could push Hillary, because they didn't want Bernie, wasn't to their liking. He wasn't a establishment like neoliberal candidate.
He would rock the boat too much for them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, he would rock the boat.
Up, like he posed too much of a threat to the establishment party bureaucracy. So basically, they pushed Hillary with the complete like lack of awareness that nobody was going to want to support. Like people, pretty much everybody is completely sick of those kind of establishment candidates, and nobody was actually going to be like at least the vast majority of people weren't going to get behind him. So they pushed Trump, and then people surprise, didn't support Hillary because she was just a candidate. So basically they completely if you want to know who's responsible for Trump winning, it was the Democrats. That's basically the case.
Yeah.
I'll add another point. It's I do agree with Piper with everything she said. Like the Democrats are at fault for how they were supporting Hillary and really screwed Bernie Sanders at the DNC, and how that's all true and stuff like that, and how Hillary Clinton did not campaign in many different places. And if she could have campaigned in those places, maybe that she would have won those states, and that could have swung the election, of course. But I would also mention another point. Is not a counter. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just adding that there's also voter suppression in a lot of states and stuff like that.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a multifaceted thing, and also there's the argument that if Bernie Sanders actually decided I lost, I will throw my support to Hillary on the general election. Everyone who voted for me in the primary should.
He did support Hillary in the end. What he did was, I don't know about publicly, but what he did was he basically transferred his whole campaign to Hillary. So he took all the email lists from people that worked on his campaign and all the financial resources, and he transferred that all to Hillary's campaign.
Okay, so if he did do that, then that's good on him and stuff like that. So I'll check that last statement. But yeah, I do agree with most of everything you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also Russian involvement as well.
I feel as though with people like Trump, it's not so much that. I mean, like Geek just said, I can agree. I can speak. I agree completely with the analysis that the Democrats being useless neoliberals and failing to understand the political situation that late stage capitalism is creating. Assume that it can just put in anyone and run on essentially nothing, like Obama, just more right wing.
Run on. Look at Trump. You don't want Trump in office.
Yeah.
Come on, we're better than him.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
like
what they ran off of, and I'm just like, I kind of got dragged to vote. I really didn't want to. I was like, I don't really want to vote. I don't think it's worth my time. Yeah, I wrote in Vernon Supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you look at obviously Democrats are completely incompetent, but also America is obviously a capitalist country, a right-wing country with a deeply corporate body and wealth divide that's sort of fundamental to the entire fabric of the country. And in a way, it's sort of natural, but eventually it will tend into fascism. You could even make the argument that it already sort of was 10, 20, 30 years ago with Reagan suppressing workers' rights and stomping down on unions, with the administration, the Clinton administration, with the terrible crime bill and mass incarceration that essentially drove corporate profits up because they suddenly had a massive labor force that could just pay for essentially nothing, keep them all confined, and make millions off them. It's not exactly like Trump just appeared out of nowhere and the Democrats were like, oh yeah, he's bad, don't vote for him. Like, it's a growing problem, but it's sort of indicative of the nature of capitalism. And
it's something
that
had. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's something that had been growing for years, and I think that you would agree with this, though. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that I've seen you specifically say this on that I would say that fascism in many ways is just capitalism defending itself.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I agree with that too.
Although, fascism does tend towards, like, it gets rid of the illusion of freedom that's maintained by liberalism.
Under neoliberalism, and
like you look at someone like Hillary Clinton.
Fascism. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'll try and be concise, then you can go ahead. Hillary Clinton, like, obviously people who are wealthy still backed her, but you look at what her policies were, they're still fundamentally very corporate. She's still in favor of market liberalism. She and her husband in the Caribbean are clearly the sort of people to do anything. Like, you look at what happened in Honduras, where the Clinton administration helped set up labor camps and sweatshop factories, which made American corporations a lot of profit, but at the expense of the liberty and freedom of the workers in that country. They'll still be like protecting himself with capitalism under Hillary, but obviously Trump is the more hardcore version of that, and the one who can deliver more profits to the elite by lowering standards even further, by being the person willing to cross that boundary. Anyway, you go ahead, Piper.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of quickly also add to that is her husband Bill Clinton, when he was president, he signed the quintessential liberal deal, basically, which is NAFTA. So I mean, they're obviously and she was a New Democrat, so was Bill, and that the platform of the New Democrats was basically austerity and racism. So but the thing I was going to say before is that fascism is not ideologically, it's not liberal, because liberalism, within the kind of ideology of liberalism, you have this basically the idea is that the state will protect liberty through protecting property rights. With fascism, I mean, fascism basically says nothing about property rights, and in practice fascist regimes just leave the current they leave the property relations that already exist alone.
It redirects,
but they so they say, and they also don't care about protecting
Piper,
about
sorry
protecting
to
liberty at all. They care about like
sorry to interrupt you. I think your audio's been a little bit. I don't know if it's just my
Is it?
hearing.
No,
but
No, I'm
heard
hearing it too. I think you're lagging. I think you're maybe like skipping a bit
I
by
am?
lagging or something like that. Yeah, a
What's
little bit.
that?
Yeah, where you,
Well, in my view, what I see.
Am I coming?
You're coming through. Okay, so what I see fascism as doing is that it shifts the focus, or it tries to shift the focus of the lower classes from the emphasis on class struggle and the struggle between different groups with power into society into a struggle of subversive groups in society. So, like, they'll target, degenerates. They'll target like Jewish people, any sort of group that is Muslims, any sort of group that is kind of a visible minority, that visibly does not conform to the culture, that is visibly different. The fascist, shifts the struggle from, it's the rich people who is taking from you to, it's these people that are making your life bad. Go after them.
Yeah, that was actually the point that I made earlier when I said it's easier to blame the Jews than it is to actually look at the problem and survey it accurately. It is much easier to it's much easier to blame a marginalized group because they don't have enough power to defend themselves from racist white people. And these white people who already had these fears, having it confirmed by someone who they view as like some kind of like savior or protector, they're gonna, it's only gonna end in violence. It's going to end in.
Can you guys can you guys hear me correctly now?
Yeah, you sound good.
Yeah.
Okay. So like basically what I was saying was like so basically like unlike liberalism, which protecting freedom, the state protecting freedom for property rights, fascism doesn't care about property rights or freedom or any of that. Fascism cares first and foremost about the sovereignty of the nation state and like uniting all groups and all classes into this homogenous blood and soil idea of the nation, and basically the nation pursuing its interests above everything else. And so basically that's where you get this, like, I don't think the term is accurate, but some people call it totalitarianism. It's basically where you get this overbearing like state like apparatus that like loyalty and confect.
I would agree with most of that. However, I think where it's important to sort of make a point or slight addendum to that is that whilst the fascists talk of the nation, like you said, the true blood, in the Nazis' case, Aryan, Ubermensch and stuff, and all the rubbish about how pure they are and stuff. In practice, it's rubbish, because if you look at, for instance, the Nazi leaders, they weren't the Aryans they were saying they were. Hitler famously isn't exactly this brooding, tall, blonde, muscular man. He's a withering, smallish, brown-haired. He's not got the features of the master race he's describing. And there's many other examples of that. You look at Himmler or Goebbels or any of them. They don't meet that. Because ultimately, fascism, is based upon falsehoods and lies about making it a state. It's about making that idea, but as a cover and a sort of misdistraction from the true source of the oppression. The capitalists upon their worker. You look at what fascism does for the ruling class, and the wealthy. It allows them to consolidate their power. In times of perhaps worry that, as we with society being more unstable, the workers will eventually seize the means of production, overthrow the oppressor. And obviously, as the capitalists don't want that because they want to maintain their power, they tend to a system where they have suppression. And of course, they use tactics and they have rhetoric to attack and demonize other groups, be it those of different religions, be it ethnicities, be it sexualities. But they ultimately will serve the purpose of both handing themselves more capital, more power, more ability to maintain the social order, but serving as a distraction for the people. In fact, they don't even need the majority of people to believe it. It's not like in Nazi Germany, people just suddenly clicked and like were like, oh yeah, we now hate you with Untermensch. No, they just needed a small, they needed enough people to push their ideas through.
Yeah, was it
like Rose said a second ago, you don't need every white person to be racist for a racist white people to have a serious bodily effect on minorities and marginalized people in America.
Well, the thing I would kind of add as an addendum to the ideological contradictions between fascism and liberalism is that while fascism isn't a liberal ideology, it is definitely the last defense of a liberal state against revolution.
Yeah.
So for basically Mussolini got into power by promising the conservatives that he wouldn't get rid of parliamentary democracy. Hitler was appointed by establishment conservatives who wanted to suppress the German Revolution. So that I would definitely add that addendum to it.
Of course, yeah, and you see elements of liberals and conservatives sort of either unwillingly or completely in knowledge of it, tending and helping fascists out because they're afraid of the challenge to the social order they've established. But
cough, Antifa are the real fascists.
Yeah, exactly that. People who have been conditioned their whole life to sort of see, any violence against the state or against police or any lack of order is unjust. And obviously,
you can talk to them, debate them.
Ignoring the the real violence. They don't consider the fact that people don't get to eat or they have to choose between their rent and their healthcare. They don't see that as violence. But then the person fighting back against a literal Nazi waving around a flag that says we want you and your kind exterminated, that's the real violence. That's the problem. And this conditioning allows fascists to play the sympathetic persona, the idea of the underdog, to so many liberals, and hence they get dozens of thought pieces in rubbishy newspapers which say, meeting the real person behind the Nazi, or should we be listening to the far right more, and all these puff pieces.
Or the what was it again? It was the white supremacist next door.
Yeah, that one.
And it's pictures of them shopping and stuff and picking out groceries.
Yeah,
and they was describing in a kind of romantic image the home life of this neo-Nazi.
It's all to build this bluster and image. It works perfectly because of the way liberals are conditioned to view society. And it's not as though they intentionally do. No one's going into the thing saying, "Oh yeah, I want to be sympathetic to win." Yeah, no one says that. But through their actions and through their lack of ability to analyze the situation and to accept the reality of the danger of fascism, they become the perfect bait for it. It's why Hitler, for instance, in interviews said that we could have called ourselves the National Liberals because they only use socialism as a buzzword. In reality, liberalism could have also worked because ultimately they didn't care about what the word meant. They cared about winning enough people over, right? Pushing the movement forward. Sorry to have a diatribe there, but
no, that's fine. It is your channel. It is your Hangout.
That is true. Yeah, the thing that reminded me of is this with regard to the debate about Antifa. Conservatives have this talking point where basically they say, okay, well, if Antifa is gonna make all this trouble and stir all these things up and riots and no platform people, the police will have to do their jobs, quote unquote. And I think that's really interesting because that's basically a blatant admission that the job of the police is to repress resistance for those in power. They're literally saying the police will have to do their jobs. And I totally agree. That's what the job of the police is, to suppress resistance for the people that hold power in society.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing, lots of liberals and conservatives say, mostly right-wing people, but a lot of liberals as well, you know, when people say like, you know, we need to abolish the police or all cops are bastards, no, they'd be like, oh well, you know, who's going to stop murder? Who's going to stop assault? And you know, they don't realise that firstly, you know, who do you think is doing most of the murdering and assaulting?
Oh my goodness,
who do you
Owen,
think is doing that?
who's in the chat?
Who's in the chat?
Check it out for yourself. We have leftist e-celebrity watching us. Well, I don't know if 5,000 subscribers qualifies as an e-celebrity, but whatever.
Batco the Manicist. Oh, hello, Batco. I'm sure he's blustered and flattered to be considered an e-celebrity.
Oh, I doubt it. He probably disagrees with me very much.
But yeah, like what I was saying, I lost my train of thought now.
The police.
It's 12,000, you dingus.
Well, it was 5,000 the last time I checked. I can't help it when, you know, with how fast your channel is growing. I can't pay attention to that.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I don't even have 1,000.
And Backo, it because you're a leftist, it feels like everyone hates you because all the leftists are always fighting on Twitter and always hating on each other all the time for tiny little issues and heresies, and that's what's killing the left is the non-stop sectarianism.
Well, we can come on to that in a second, but what I wanted to what I was saying about the police, as Geek nicely reminded me. No worries, Lapis. You know, they say, oh, who's going to stop murders and assaults and theft, and they completely ignore what the police are doing in America and have done for decades. How could you say to someone who's generations of their family are either in prison or dead because the police essentially see them as a walking statistic? We'll put you in prison to boost corporate profits, or we'll brutalize you because we can, because the police are literally filled with people who just want a power trip over some marginalized person. You know, who are you to say that the police, you know, protect liberty when for generations they've crushed, you know, the marginalized people just trying to make a living? Like, you know, we talk about liberty, but then we see the sheer volume of people in prison for selling recreational drugs or, you know, loitering or any of the other nonsense that gets people arrested in America.
I mean, you know, I don't know about any of you guys, but I don't really think like the people that, like, you know, nearly killed Rodney King and killed Eric Gardner, like I don't think those people are the people that are stopping murder. You know, I don't necessarily think.
Trayvon Martin.
I don't know.
Like the police are very violent, and like, people, and especially in America, like the police have like a long history of being tied to white supremacy.
I don't know. Eric Garner looked like he was gonna kill somebody.
You know, selling
one day it's selling loose cigarettes. The next day it's breaking into somebody's house with a Glock and shooting them in the head.
Yeah, you know, I mean, somewhat, you know, you can't sell loose cigarettes. That's against the rules, you know. I mean,
because it's tax free.
You can't sell loose cigarettes. Got to put you in a chokehold and kill you.
But then, like, all these people coming out with, oh, you know, it's a hard job. They look suspicious. They shouldn't be doing that. Like, you see all these mass shootings going on, and the shooter will have, like, you know, this whole arsenal of weapons. But then they're somehow taken in, like, you know, gently marshaled away, like, nice little stroll. And sometimes, like, they'll capture him. Once they took him to Burger King or something. Like, they got a fast food meal for him. Can you imagine that?
I mean, like, the thing
because
about
they're what? It's because they're white, so they're not viewed as quote unquote suspicious. Notice that they only ever say that the black people who get in trouble looked suspicious.
There's like a line of like police apologia where it goes, okay, well, you know, the police have one of the most dangerous jobs, you know, ever, right? Well, that's actually not true. If you look at the statistics, it's actually not a very dangerous job. Truck driving is much more dangerous. Like being a trucker is much more dangerous than being a police officer.
And when you look at go ahead.
My job is much more dangerous than being a fucking police officer. I work at a warehouse, which means that there's always heavy objects. There's always heavy objects up, suspended in the air, that, you know, things fall. If you're in a warehouse, things fall sometimes. There's always the potential that that could fall on somebody, and there's statistics. More people die working in warehouses because fucking a thing of cans falls on them than fucking police dying because of that scary black person.
Yeah. Well, the police, like the police, you can pretty much tell that they have it easy, like by their waistlines.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
What, the donuts? I think also, I think the other thing to consider is, you know, what's the real fear and danger? Is it the, you know, policeman pulling up in their car and doing whatever, or is it the person fearing for their life when they see the flashing lights behind them, knowing that that policeman could be some trigger-happy, but like, you know, careless jerk who will potentially kill them for what, reaching into their pocket maybe to get the wallet out? They'll ask them for papers and in some cases plant drugs on them to arrest them because it turns out
to justify their violence.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Even when we have body cam footage, like the authorities still tend to lean towards the officer's testimony, because when the officer says, "I feared for my life," the judge is like, "Oh, I understand. I feared for my life around."
Oh yeah, can you give us your registration? You know, if a police officer asks a guy with darker skin, "Oh, can we see your registration?" and the guy goes to reach for his registration, they go, I thought he might be reaching for a gun. He was reaching for his registration in the glove box where people keep their fucking registration to their car.
There was a particular case, and the fact that this didn't get like very publicized is kind of indicative of like, you know, what the national like debate, you know, really cares about. But like there was a case a while ago, like a video that got uploaded online of, you know, the police, you know, killing another black person, and the guy, all he did was pick up a BB gun off of a store shelf, and the cops like shot him dead in the head.
Wow.
Like,
oh yeah, they chased him in the store too. Like they were like, they're in a store that's selling BB guns. They see someone pick up a BB gun, which they know,
on the store shelf, and was obviously not a real gun. But you know.
Yeah, it's something that literally just with that, you know, having seen him picked up the BB gun, they already know it's not an actual gun.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's Tamir Rice, who is a 12-year-old
adult black male.
A 12-year-old with a toy gun with orange, you know. It has the orange at the end of it because, you know, all toy guns have to have that to distinguish them from regular guns. They're like, we thought he had a gun. What the fuck? Who sees a 12-year-old kid with an orange tip gun-shaped thing and thinks, oh, that must be a real gun?
Meanwhile, like Jimmy the neo-Nazi can have like an entire like gun range and be on like his 10th warning.
And then it's like, we're surprised that he went and shot up a synagogue.
Yeah, and he'll have like 50 copies of like Mein Kampf all over his room and stuff, and like
he seemed like such a nice boy.
And praise to his statue to his statues of Hitler and Mussolini every day.
Well, you know,
the real say something like awful, like, oh, why weren't you nice to him? He's got like a swastika shirt he comes into school with and stuff, and he like calls.
Yeah, I've seen some of that on my Facebook feed as well.
Awful.
You know, the real problem though is that, like, you know, the people who do that, they're obviously, you know, mentally ill. What we need to do is have, you know, gun regulations so that, you know, make sure that no mentally ill people get their hands on them, you know.
I would say that if I could get my hand on a gun, I would kill myself. But
yeah, there's that problem too. There's also element of gun violence as well.
I will say though, the thing is that, you know, the people who, you know, that's actually a thing though with mentally ill people is that they're not gonna go and shoot up a fucking. They're not the ones who go and commit mass shootings.
Like 19% of mass shootings are by the mentally ill.
Yeah. Well, the thing is mentally ill people are more likely to be the victims of gun violence than they are to be the perpetrators. When mentally ill people,
Well,
yeah.
true.
Oh, violence in general, but you know, gun violence is included
gun
in that.
violence. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
With gun violence as its own statistic, mentally ill people are still more likely to be the victims of gun violence than they are to be the perpetrators of it. And the thing is,
sorry, you go ahead.
And you know, not only that, generally a lot of mentally ill people who, you know, they're like, oh, we got to keep the guns away from the mentally ill people. Most mentally ill people who, you know, are a danger to themselves with a gun will usually, or a danger to other people with a gun, having a gun, usually don't have guns because they know that they could be potentially dangerous with a gun.
Also, just you know, the sinister implications of saying, "Oh, let's let this state, which has a pretty poor track record of, you know, segregation and civil rights abuse and just general like atrociousness, let's let them create a registry to put all mentally ill people on."
Let's let the, you know, the primary coercive apparatus of, you know, in all societies that controls all societies with violence. Let's let them have all of the, you know, weapons. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's them have the say in who can get a weapon or not. But yeah, I mean, just I'm saying, like, even without diving into, you know, just the fact that just the insidious shit, just the fact that, you know, if it was like, even if it was an actual like good faith thing, fucking it wouldn't make any sense, as it really wouldn't change anything, since it's not like you don't have mentally ill people going around buying guns all the time. You have, however, you have a lot of ableist people going and buying guns all the time. You have a lot of racists going and buying guns because they're afraid that some Mexican guy's gonna come and rape this Mexican guy's gonna come and rape his dog and his daughter, and I gotta have 6 shotguns ready.
It's a deterrent.
I get
or
the
the
impression.
dog is coming for their pure white daughters.
They're pure white daughter. Yeah.
I get the impression a lot of people just sort of like secretly hoping we're gonna get broken into. Like, I get a lot of the impression a lot of people just have like a power trip and it's like an urge to.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
They really just want an excuse to shoot somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. But they don't care. It's like they'll move their hand and be like, oh, I had to. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you know, a guy strokes just his ankle touches a blade of grass that's extending out onto the sidewalk. Oh my god, he was on my property. I had to shoot him.
I mean, that's actually like the core reason for a lot of for the like immense gun culture that exists in the United States, is like basically white people wanting to have guns to suppress like any kind of resistance to white supremacy. So like during like, you know, when colonization in the United States started and, you know, the white settlers had to deal with the natives that were already living there, you know, it was actually on the books. Like there were laws saying that every settler has to, you know, settler has to have, you know, some ammunition and a firearm. And there were, you know, militias organized for catching slaves and for killing natives. And like, you know, the huge reason for like the NRA, like, you know, being ramped up and like gun culture among, you know, Americans being ramped up has been like, you know, it's basically like a counter-revolutionary effort to the, you know, to the fact that like, you know, segregation was overturned by the Civil Rights Act. So like, you know, that's the reply of like white American society to the, you know, defeat of oppressive laws against people of color. And, you know, if you look at like the statistics of who owns guns, it's generally, you know, middle class white men.
Well, yeah, because they have the money to buy a big gun collection. They don't have to worry about putting food on their plate and feeding their family. You know, they want taxes so they can escape big government. And then so they can spend it on guns. And
but remember, too, that also when black people decide to arm themselves and protect themselves from police and white supremacists, we all of a sudden need gun control and sensible gun laws. Cough, cough, California.
Yeah.
Under Reagan.
Yes, it's true.
Look, I mean, you have to look at the response the Black Panthers got. I mean, in theory, all these like gun-loving, conservatives who are like, oh yeah, we need to guns to protect ourselves.
But it was the gun-loving conservatives that got rid of the fucking guns in California because the Black Panthers started arming themselves.
After the Black Panthers did their march on the Capitol in California, Reagan, who had before, been for but like, so basically Reagan, who, after this was, a very big advocate of guns. He, is on record saying, oh, well, nobody should be carry after the Black Panthers did their open carry. He was on record saying, oh, nobody should be able to carry a gun in public. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, because all of a sudden the scary brown people had a gun, and, we can't let them carry guns in public anymore. Like whenever I hear a lot of like this coded stuff, I'm like waiting. It's like 5 seconds away before one of them is gonna slip and say and just call black people the N-word. It always seems like it's 5 seconds away.
Cities.
Oh yeah, violence in the inner cities. I am immediately thinking, in my head that goes those N-words, and it's like. Because that's the way I think about it when I hear that, because I know that's how they're coding it.
It's also really not subtle either. Like, you look at some of the stuff they like say, it's like literally a few steps away from like Birth of a Nation type. Oh, the blacks are running around, like
I mean, we saw
the blacks are running around. They're raping your pure white women and
white. We even saw it recently in the in the West Virginia race with Don Blankenship ranting about the China people.
But yeah, Birth of a Nation, the Klan were the good guys in the plot of the film, which
exactly.
That that's kind of it's always a few steps. All that language that you start talking about people in the inner city, or you talk about super predators. You're just a couple steps. It's always just a couple steps away from Birth of a Nation level shit.
And like, we're talking a lot about police brutality, but there's like so many other ways that the system expresses its violence towards people of color. Like the whole drug war is pretty much designed to suppress them and keep them down, and as a means so that they can't vote again, because convicted felons. In America are stripped of the vote.
Oh yeah, and that's even after.
Because in America, slavery was banned except for prisons.
Exactly, it's right there in the amendments.
Oh yeah, it's right there, and also too, just generally looking at it, if you look at how we view felons in America, like culturally speaking, we view felons as like. Losing a right to personhood.
Yeah, I mean, like
it doesn't matter what you did. You're not a person anymore. You don't get the right.
It's become a mechanism of making black people into this surplus population, superfluous to the capitalist economy, because basically what happens is when they get targeted by the police, because the police are literally trained to target black males, and then
they humble them.
They get put in prison, and then when they get out of prison, they have no rights to buy a house, they have no rights to vote, and they're not going to get employed. So they get turned into the surplus population.
And so it's pretty much opportunities are severely they have to go limited. Back into crime, back into the black market. It like forces them.
They get turned. Yeah, they get turned into this like surplus population that is like forced out of the capitalist economy to make room for the white people that we that the capitalist economy actually wants participating.
Yeah, so much for meritocracy.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, so much for Jordan Peterson's rhetoric about all hierarchies are meritocracies. There's no oppression.
It's so revealing as well. Like some of the things these people are like imprisoned for as well. Like it's bad enough, but like at least with some.
I was selling drugs to feed my family, and now I'm a convicted felon. I spent 10 years behind bars.
Yeah.
I was my third strike. You know, I smoked a blunt and fucking a police officer arrested me.
Yeah,
and
like,
you know, I didn't get a
crime. It's always like, you know, it's very rarely an actual, you know, negative thing. It's always like either something, you know, against what am I saying? It's something that
it's a victimless crime.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at a lot of it. Some of it's shit that I've fucking done. It's like, oh yeah, I smoked a blunt at fucking you know, who, I mean, not to like make it sound like, you know, I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but fucking who in high school doesn't smoke weed?
I actually can like speak to myself that like in Washington State, I have committed a Class C felony daily for like years because in this state, this is a sidetrack. This is not really connected to the topic, but I play online poker, and that's a Class C felony in Washington State. But they never arrest people or punish people into the crimes. It's a little off to the side, but there's a lot of like.
It's usually not the scary brown people doing it. It's the white people gambling online.
Yeah, there was other reasons for that, so it's a bit off topic there. But yeah, there's just a lot of victimless crimes that are on the books, so like sex work or stuff like that. I mean, it's just pointless.
You know, if I could, you know, specifically looking at the weed one, it's like I'm trying to, I'm literally trying to think of all of my friends, just regardless of race, I can't name a single one who didn't smoke pot at some point in high school. You know, it's really hard to like actually come up with one. Like, oh yeah, white people drinking underage. Yeah, I definitely did that one. Technically still do because I'm technically still underage because America is fucking archaic. 21 years drinking laws. You have to be 21 years or older. Yeah, well, I could drive a couple hours over the border into Canada and get fucking sloshed.
Yeah. You can die for the country.
Like 21 years of age to drink. I mean, it's absolutely absurd because that's sort of, you know, it goes against a lot of you know, a lot of cultures, like in the Italian cultures, you know, it's like because when you do that, you sort of kind of associate alcohol with drunkenness because, you know, when you learn to drink at an earlier age, like even parents should be like sort of having a little bit of wine with their kids, you know, maybe, you know, in the like once they turn teenagers, because you learn to, you know, appreciate wine and as like a cultural thing and as kind of like a conversational thing, as
opposed to something you drink just as opposed to just fucking pounding back natty ices to get sloshed.
So when you sort of put it up to 21 or something like that, it's just alcohol becomes associated with
whatever. My family never follows that law. You know, 18, graduated high school, have a beer.
I'm sure tons of people
that's the way it should be.
follow the law wouldn't get hung up over.
Oh yeah, I've straight up heard I've straight up had conversations with police who have admitted, like, actually, on the night of my prom, or on the night of my, or not the night of, but a couple nights before my prom, you know, we have an orientation about like the behavior that's expected of us at the prom.
Yeah.
So one of the guys who's a police officer, because we actually had a police officer in the school at all times. Yeah, and you know, the guy literally admitted that, oh yeah, when I was 15, you know, there was a car accident. I had been drinking, but I wasn't driving. You know, I didn't get into that car. But, you know, the person who sat in the spot that I would have ended up dying because of that, because that specific spot was easier to fly out of. You know, he said, you know, he was talking about that because we were talking about drinking safety. Yeah. Or we were talking about, like, the safety of not drinking while driving. You know, he literally admitted that, oh yeah, I wasn't 21 when I first drank. You know, it's a rule. It's one of those rules that I think it's one of those laws that I think is broken by like pretty much everybody.
Meanwhile,
not me, but I'm the exception.
Meanwhile, in the black neighborhood, Stephen has been shot dead for suspiciously holding his phone in his pocket and loitering.
The phone looked a lot like a mini nuke.
It's just absurd.
He was gonna load it into his Fat Boy launcher and just blow up Megaton. Oh, sorry, wrong universe.
But it's literally like it's inane how the difference between how it's viewed under a white perspective and under a black perspective. Like you said, there are just countless anecdotes of white people just being able to sort of enjoy themselves. Rightfully so, obviously, because
the
recreational.
Judge's kid, the judge's kid can have a party, and they can be doing cocaine and they can be very loud and rowdy at the party, but the police can't go over there because that's the judge's kid. So they got to go over to the black neighborhood and harass the adults who are making the adult decision to smoke weed.
And that's the thing as well. Like the phrase "black neighborhood" as well. Like it's not as though it's entirely homogeneous. And we just say, "Oh, you are black, you will enter."
No, I grew up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, but I'm not Puerto Rican.
Yeah. And you'll find these communities just anywhere you go, really, they're not as it's not as but they're racial gang prison chain group.
No. It's not like the white areas are just all Aryan Brotherhood. The rest of it is Latin. You've got Latin Kings, Bloods, Crips. No, it's not like that, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not homogenous, but it is but there's a higher concentration of black people in these poorer areas due to practices such as redlining, for example.
Yeah, and pretending that segregation and literal slavery, which was in not very long ago,
chattel slavery.
Yeah, that doesn't just go away just because you passed a law. It's absurd to say otherwise. You can't just
There was sharecropping.
Hey, rape never happens because it's illegal. Don't you know?
Oh God.
And I guess murder never happens because it's against the law.
Yeah, officer, I'm being someone's breaking into my house. Oh, have you told him it's against the law? Don't waste police time.
He broke into my house and stabbed me in the gut 3 times. Well, did you tell him it was against the law? No, I tried to fight him off. Well, you should have told him it was against the law. It's your fault. Sorry,
and the police show up and arrest you because you've wasted their man hours. Off to the camp. Oh, sorry, I mean prison.
Pretty much.
Oh gosh, prisons as well in America. But if you didn't think it was bad enough from the outside, when you go
I
in,
just gotta say, as much as the conservatives love to bring up Stalin's gulags, we have more people in our prisons which have arguably similar conditions to the Stalin's gulags. We have more people in our gulags, prisons, than Stalin had in his gulags.
Although, to be fair, Russia was about, half a third of America back then?
Yeah. But, even percentage-wise, we have more people we have 20%, or we have 25%, and this is not including extrajudicial numbers. So, there's obviously more because we've got Guantanamo Bay, for example. But in America, we have 25% of the whole world's prison population, of all the people who are incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And we're just talking about on the books judicial incarcerations.
It's terrifying.
But we have 1/3 the population, we have a little more than 1/4 of the population of China. Oh, such an oppressive country, but they don't have as many people in their jails as we do, and they have more and they have more citizens.
Yeah, although I wouldn't. They are a very repressive country.
They are, but I'm just saying, putting it into perspective, trying to wipe America's hands clean by saying, "Look at China."
there's a point to be made, like, so, obviously China has a very repressive like government, right? They censor the internet and all this, but like, we have a higher prison population than they do,
Yeah. And the fact that like these people will do their obviously misconstrued, like deliberately false and misleading attacks on left-wing ideologies. Like, oh, look at Stalin and his gulags. Like, obviously mostly missing the whole point of, and the ideas behind socialism and why Stalin's Russia wasn't socialist and stuff. But
Sadly,
like has been said,
10,000 people.
You Marxists always saying that it wasn't real socialism.
Yeah. Owen, you don't understand though. Socialism always leads to communism.
But then, like you've all said, like the American prison situation is, surely if you're gonna just say out of the blue, oh, this country is bad because, or not this country, sorry, this ideology is bad because this country which put the ideology in its name had lots of people in prison. Well, what does that say of America right now? Where people are arrested for things that are so trivial and banal, but it would almost seem laughable.
Stay so long in jail.
Yeah, and then you look at what goes on in those jails as well, where people are deprived of clean drinking water, sanitation,
where they have to work for like $2 an hour.
Yeah, making McDonald's or KFC.
Oh yeah, making shit for McDonald's. They're making the uniforms for McDonald's, for example.
Yeah.
Would you be open to inviting anyone else on the stream, Owen? Some guy
so long as it's through sensible and secure means, because the last time I let people in from the chat into the thing,
well, it did turn into a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's aware of the Just a Man incident. Oh gosh,
that was the whole racism controversy that happened a month ago.
Oh,
it was. It seems like it was not that long ago. Essentially, I was doing one of my usual sort of debate hangout type things with someone called the Just a Man, and it was going quite smoothly actually. I was surprised. It was the initial first sort of 10 minutes or so, or 15 minutes were fairly decent, and then he's like, "Oh, can I invite a friend on, please?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, well, why not?" Thinking it's just going to be one of his friends, whatever. Like I've done it before, no harm was going to come from it. And as soon as I do that, as soon as I let him do that, instantly three of his friends just show up straight away. And they're clearly trolling, saying that, oh, I'm Josh's lawyer. I'm here to represent him and stuff, and saying that Josh the Man had to be on another stream with them. Instantly sort of derailing the thing. And I'm like, okay, well, you're clearly just wasting people's time. Boot him out. But then Josh the Man's sort of attitude changes. He goes from just having a normal conversation to being like, actually, I think I might have to go because if I don't, there'll be some sort of unimplicated consequences. Pretty sinister, weird, disconcerting stuff. He says, I have to go, and his friends show up again, sort of demanding Josh goes onto their stream. And I'm like, oh, well, fine, afterwards, because we're doing this now. He's this guy, his name was Keepercast. He's saying oh, well, I scheduled it with Josh. And it's like, well, what do you mean scheduled it? We're not on some sort of TV program. It's a YouTube hangout on some, channels with a few hundred subscribers, if that. You're not you're going to lose your job if you're not on this stream. And then, he's like, oh, listen, you calls me the N-word and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I just boot him out straight away, and say to Josh, "Oh,
that would immediately lead to, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your story. I just,
it's all right.
I'll make the point after you're done talking about the story.
Oh no, yeah, brilliant, thank you. He calls me the N-word. I boot him out, and I'm like to Josh the Man, oh, your friends are pretty racist, clearly. And he's like, oh, they've got a certain type of humor to him. In the
typical... it's so cringy. Well, they have a certain type of humor.
Yeah, and he's grinning when he said it as well. Honestly, it wouldn't be so bad if these people had any spine to them. They're all the talk when they're all the talk when they say this. They say this sort of stuff outside, in the messages and stuff. Hello, who is this? Patrick.
This is the Conundrum, the guy who wanted on the chat.
Oh, hello.
He's been messaging for a bit.
Hello?
Yep.
Hi, Conundrum. Hope you're well.
Conundrum. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I think we've spoken before. Honestly, I'm very bad with like names and stuff. Anyway, continuing the story. Yeah, Joss the man, he's like, oh well, we just got a sense of humour to them. And they'd say, oh, I have to go now. And it's just completely like a bit insulting to not only say nothing against your racist friends, but also just we've organised the time, and it's not like it's the first time we've done it. This is the third time of trying to get him to organise a time of a stream he wanted in the first place, because he was messaging me saying like, oh well, I'd like to stream with you, Owen. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's organise a time. He just forgets or like whatever, doesn't show up twice, and then a third time he does this, like stays around for 10 minutes, disappears, lets his friends be racist. Then his friends like tell him to call me the N-word, so he messages me saying the same thing. Oh, Owen, you're and obviously says a racist slur. And then I say, okay, don't contact me again. You're just wasting my time and stuff. His friends, S-Man, a few of the others, Lapis even, try to reach out to him and sort of say, oh well, if you move on from this, you can be forgiven. You can grow from this and learn to sort of not be racist and stand up to your friends. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. But it turns out he's just going to and fro from different things. 1 minute defending his racism, defending his friend's racism, then the next saying other stuff. And then it sort of turned into a pretty, really unsettling sort of thing with the sort of details that were being described about what Jossman was doing with these friends. So it turns out that this group of KeeperCast, they've been telling Josh to do stuff in exchange for gifts that he's not really receiving. So they made him pour his own urine over his head, which it sounds like it's not true, but it is. What
the fuck?
It's disgusting, but it happened. He did that because they told him to, and they said he'd get some like GTA points or something, or like some video game microtransaction points. And I'm not sure if he got them or not. But
why would anyone?
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's clearly some sort of coercive.
Why would you do that for some video game points?
That's
not even that. That's not even the
worst,
man.
It's not the worst.
That's actually not even the worst.
Because I think, who was it? Barbara Bush recently died, former First Lady.
Okay.
Now,
well,
I'm no fan.
Yep. And the whole world went, thank fuck, when was that old bag gonna... We were waiting for that old bag to die.
No, I've got no sympathy for any of them, of course, but
immediately escape the fates. There's no sympathy for the dead. Just started playing in my head when I heard that.
You first you should hear what happened. Like
KeeperCast and his friends. They say, "Oh, Josh, why don't you have a wank over this death happening? Why don't you masturbate to that?" And he did it.
Fuck?
Yep, he did it.
Why?
He literally, because
why would he do that?
I don't even think they offered him a prize for that one. Yeah, he does all these embarrassing, clearly degrading things. Literally admits to it on camera. Not even just like hearsay. He's literally saying this himself. And for essentially social thread with like these weirdos online who make him do disgusting things and are racist and stuff.
Oh yeah, they're clearly like. It sounds to me like they're just fucking taking advantage of them.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes even further because they have his address. He's sent him like his phone number and stuff. His mother knows about this and is trying to like get Joss the Man to stop like contacting them to seemingly no avail because clearly like it hasn't stopped.
Well, they kicked him out actually.
But is that even true though? Because
then again, because there's so many lies, it could just be that kicking him out was
and that's the other thing as well. Like Joss Man, like 1 minute he's like, "Oh, they're manipulating me. I don't mean to be doing all this stuff. They're just controlling me." And the next minute he's like defending them, doubling down on the stuff. Saying stuff like, "Oh, well, I'm not actually racist, and it's not racist to call people that. Stop being an SJW." Like, and he's literally just called someone the N-word like for the night, and then supposedly that's not racist anymore. But yeah, he lost. He's not in the sort of.
Well, the real racism happens against white people.
But he deleted his channel and made a new one because I think he's like wanting to move on from not even move on, just wants to shed his image with he was in a group called the Poor Bastards, which is like a a sort of conservative, right-leaning podcast with a load of. I say right-leaning. It is right-wing. It's a load of.
It is right-leaning. Yeah, I was.
It's kind of. It's a bit of a. There are a couple of us who are kind of, because Lapis and I are both in the group as well, and we're obviously more left-leaning.
Yeah. I was in the group. I suppose I still am, sort of, just not an official member.
Well, yeah, I think
lots
still
of them.
Part of the there's some people like us and people that you're obviously quite close to.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few of them can't stand me.
Oh, you've got a.
What did you say?
Lonely Wolf has the bird. Sorry, I noticed the bird and I'm like, oh my god, fucking.
I've been watching the bird for like the last 20 minutes.
Hey, well, I'm just looking at my phone screen now, so. Hold on, let me check if I'm working.
Everyone says hi to Dallas. That's the name of like a Lone Wolf's bird. Say hi, Dallas.
Come here.
I like your Mega Man hat, dude.
Yeah. Some random geek. Where are you filming? It looks like you're outside of like a school or a warehouse.
I'm outside of work right now. I just got off of work, and that's not a school. That's a Whole Foods, unfortunately.
Woo!
Yeah, I work at the warehouse for a local grocery store.
But just Jocelyn, man, like it was his current channel too, flipping it. Like it's not degrading as such anymore, but the quality of the video he puts on.
I'll be honest. I do not associate with Jocelyn. I find his actions appalling, especially towards you. The minute he called you that word, he was dead in my book to begin with.
And it wouldn't have been like so bad if he just, because I could imagine his friends telling him that. Frankly, it's not like surprising given the other stuff his friends have made him do. But to double down on it, to not even have any temerity in the apology you give, and to act as though you're just some edgy YouTuber and not just some like cringy child being racist on the internet is embarrassing. And you look at what aside from all the offensive stuff he did, the stuff he puts in his channel now, like his rap videos and stuff, like I don't mean to be mean or anything, but I don't know what he's thinking by putting him on there. It's like him sort of shouting into a microphone, but like not actually saying any words. So go like,
he should not become he should not, in my opinion, he should not be a rapper. He should be a butcher because he can butcher those lyrics.
Like,
the music is very bad.
It's really not very good. I'm glad that I'm not familiar with this person at all. In fact, something is like, I'm not even really like familiar with S-Man. Like, you brought him up. As much as I know about him is that he exists. He followed me on Twitter, and my instant response after having like seen interactions between you and him was like, oh, this is a guy I immediately thought, oh, this is a guy who's just gonna like waste my time in pointless Twitter arguments I don't have time for. You get a block.
He's improved since then, I feel. Like, he's definitely, compared to how I felt he was before, I feel as though he's, grown as a person, which is sort of natural because I think he's, 17? He's still quite young. And I feel, if I'm going to make a prediction, I reckon he'll be a lot more left-wing than he is now, say, in a year or so's time, because he's got a conscience to him. He's not like one of the, typical edgy, like, doesn't care about anything, just posts stuff for the sake of it. He genuinely, he's a character.
I unblocked him on Twitter today because I heard you guys talking about him, and I'm like, oh, if it's like, if you think it'll be safe now to like to unblock him, I'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely.
Sometimes what it takes is I don't know. This is just my own kind of opinion, so I could be wrong. But sometimes it takes an encounter with somebody who's really much further to the right than what you are. So there was somebody else in the chat as well who was making these ridiculous ideas, saying, that women shouldn't have gotten the vote, like ultra conservative, not even conservative, like very right wing. Women shouldn't have the vote.
Also, the Jews are a subversive influence.
Voltaire
and Franco and Pinochet were both good, that fascism is an esoteric, very spiritual philosophy, and yet he calls himself a libertarian.
Yeah, and so when you hear yourself, because it's almost an activation process, because you're sort of hearing yourself saying, well, women should have the right to vote, and then when you hear yourself saying those things out loud, maybe it changes your brain chemistry or something like that, and you start thinking in terms of how a person will argue.
Yeah, no, I fundamentally agree. Like, you sort of have to think, oh, well, if this is the culmination of the ideology I have, if this is what I could be like, then, you know, what does it say about my political position? You know, that this guy who's a proud capitalist who doesn't care that, you know, workers are being literally killed if it makes a corporation profit back in the West, who thinks that, you know, the US going around for overthrowing a democracy is good because it promotes the, you know, the capitalist's cause. Like, I think that, you know, like you said, has a profound effect on someone. And then to have it just sort of quite, you know, literally put out as this, you know, fascist kid who's essentially saying such disgusting stuff like, you know, oh, fascism is spiritual, Pinochet is great, and women shouldn't be voting. Like, you know, when you hear that, you go, oh, there's some merit to what people more left wing than I am are saying.
He also said that LGBT culture is degenerate.
Yeah, he's very subtle. Isn't he black?
Yes.
Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why is he like most black people? Sort of, which it makes like it sounds weird. Let me saying this, but like most black people who, you know, lived in the West sort of tend to be more progressive, because it's like when you've had like first-hand experience of the, you know, the back end, the, you know, oppressed axis of a power dynamic. So, you know, me as a black person. Living through racism and stuff, and having experiences of racism and stuff, you know, tend just naturally to be more sympathetic and awake to the other, you know, inequalities, be it gender, sexuality, ableism and stuff. So for someone like that to, you know, be this utterly repugnant person, this sexist, homophobic, just literally a fascist, literally, not no word of exaggeration, literally would endorse fascism if you asked him, like.
Well, he tried to be a bit cunning about it because he wants to be back on the chat. And so he was like, oh, no, I'm not a fascist. But he still couldn't restrain himself from saying things like, allow me to quote Joseph Goebbels. That's something ordinary people say.
Allow me to quote Adolf Hitler, but I'm not a fascist.
What a moron.
Yeah. What a moron. Yeah, that sounds about correct.
Because sometimes it takes a certain encounter with someone who's very far. I mean, because I didn't realize that there were certain like Christian fundamentalists or whatever, like how deranged some of them were.
Until like you meet them.
Yeah, until you actually hear them. Because I remember it was quite scary because I was on another stream with a like good friend of mine, Shareview, and his friend Dead Kyle. He's got like a skull and there's a bird and whatever, and we stream like all the time together. And someone came on and Cher wasn't he shouldn't have sent out the link, I don't think, but you know, he sort of gave the link, and then we were swamped by these people, and they were just screeching at the three of us because number one, because I had a furry avatar, so he's saying, you know, the furries you should like burn in hell. And then like being asexual is also a bad thing for the Christians as well, and non-binary, that's not a good thing either for them. And then, you know, Kyle, he's openly homosexual, so, you know, he was screeching these insults at him, and, you know, even Cher got like a bit of because, you know, he's in a wheelchair, so, you know, he's very much disabled. So, you know, the three of us, we were just getting screeched at for, and then, you know, we'd kick them out, and then they came back and screeched at, and there was about 5 of them at once going for all, and I was thinking, these motherfuckers I've never encountered something like that before. Like maybe because I'm sheltered, living in the exile of Australia or something like that. I mean, I'm sure there are people here in Australia, but it's like that Christian fundamentalism that's
it's like the axis, the power you know, structures and axis affect everyone in certain ways. Like for instance, me, you know, I'm black, so obviously that's one end of it. I'm, you know, at the bottom end of the power structure, but I'm male, you know, I'm cis. That's something else, but you know. I'm not. No one's going to say to me, "Oh, Owen, you will not use this bathroom. I do not view you as a man." No one's going to say that to me. I'm allowed to have the identity that I say I have because, you know, I'm this. Whereas, for a trans person, you only have to look at what governments around the world are doing right now, what social movements are trying to, attack people over. And I think that's, so crucial, the empathy that, has to come with emotional, growing and stuff and development. I was going to say something, and it's annoying me because I can't remember what it was. So someone else should say something to avoid dead air.
Well, I should say something. You can probably see the space needle behind me because I'm in little Seattle. I was going to jump on the bus and stuff like that. I'm going to try to get some light. There's some light because I'm been deemed Leggings Man by Christy Winters. So, yes, Lonely Wolf, I am going to show off my shapely class and my leggings. It's just simple Batman leggings, yes.
Oh my god.
It's always...
Amazon, Amazon.com.
I just remember.
Unfortunately, Amazon.
I gotta go on Wish and find them.
They were lovely. What was I going? I remember what I was going to say now. These people, Wolf, but you talk about who talk of, oh, this is bad for our religion. You being all these things, like they don't understand like the fundamental ideas of their own religion. They don't understand what Jesus, was set out to say to humanity.
No, Jesus clearly was in favor of the rich guys when he said that. He didn't say that rich people couldn't get to heaven. He just said it would be easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle. But if you make a really big needle, the camel can fit right through the eye of the needle.
Like, I mean, I'm an atheist. I'm not a religious person at all. But you see all these people who supposedly, oh, we love God, we love Jesus, all that stuff, and then they're just completely ignoring the messages of their own thing. Like all these stories about how Jesus was supposed to distribute the bread amongst everyone and make sure everyone was loved and cared for, and protected.
No,
sex.
Jesus performed miracles on those who couldn't get help anywhere else.
Yeah, and he protected sex workers and stuff, and said, "Oh, leave the sex workers alone. What have they done?" And what else did he kicked out all the wealthy people from the churches? Said, "Oh no, your money is a corruption."
Jesus also had two dads. Just saying.
And he was a
polyamorous relationship between Mary, Joseph, and God.
And he was also a furry because because his first owner was the bunny.
Oh yeah. All these things, and then you get all these hateful, horrid people who supposedly profess the word of Christ, like just someone who clearly Jesus would have no time for, yet supposedly the fundamentalist of the religion.
Well, what's funny is that if Jesus was anything like a lot of the fundamentalists, or a lot of like the people who claim to love him the most, he would have been like, he would have been asking, like telling people, okay, give me money. If you don't have money, I won't do a miracle and cure your leprosy.
Yeah, like he walked away before.
No health care for you. You can't afford it.
Come on, water to one for only $20. Who's with me?
That would also defeat the purpose of like Jesus going and performing the miracles, because he's specifically performing the miracles on people who can't get help from the from the healers in these places because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
No, he'd give them a lecture about lobsters, saying that sickness is a part of the natural hierarchy.
Sickness is a part of the natural hierarchy. Something lobsters.
As we can see with the lobsters of like society, and when we look at lobster society, we see a lot of similarities with humans, like how we all have claws and stuff like that.
Yeah, and be like, oh,
Jordan, clean your room, Peterson.
Jordan Peterson is the embodiment of that "we live in a society" meme.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I mean, his book is like the book that he did, like 12 Rules. It kind of reminds me of those books that you'd have on the Oprah Winfrey. Like, if it had been like maybe let's say 20 years ago, like that would have been on the Oprah show. And
yeah,
like at the moment,
like
there's probably a lot of men
for highly successful people.
Yeah, it's like a lot of men read the book, but if it had been like the because Oprah would have been on that thing saying, "Oh, look at this." It was like the days of Deepak Chopra where everyone was kind of reading his stuff and I only read it because everyone else was reading it, and I was thinking, what is this actually about? I don't know. And then I looked at the person next to me saying, what are we reading? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I was easily influenced back in that day, but that reminds me of that kind of thing, the self-help. And I read it myself, and it was one of those books where I thought, yeah, it's good, it's okay, but it's not a great book. It doesn't stand out. It's one of those things I'd forget.
Yeah, he's sprung to prominence right at the.
You get a lobster.
Yeah, he rose to relevance in such a good time for people like him. Just some right wing person who spoke out against basic equality. Like, you shouldn't be able to discriminate against trans people. Oh, my free speech. And all that just culminates in him having this massive profile off the back of essentially just being another conservative. Like, how is he any different to any old graying man you can just find on the internet rambling on about, like he said, tips for men, and it's all just like patriarchal, hierarchical nonsense.
He's more well spoken. He phrases these popular ideas in kind of pseudo intellectual, philosophical packages. And also, because the right is really poor with having academics, they don't really have that many academics that agree with them.
Why is it that it's always why is it the conservatives always have to pay money to go onto these campuses and the liberals don't? It's because the conservatives don't actually have any academics, so non-academics have to pay to go on to college.
I'm not a giant. I'm not a giant expert on Jordan Peterson. I watched a bit of one of his talks and couldn't stand it and turned it off. But I don't know that he's really that well spoken. He definitely does, like you said, put these things in a pseudo intellectual casing to make himself look smart and make him what he's saying look legitimate. But he's a kind of mess. He just goes off on these ridiculous tangents and rambles on about mice wrestle each other.
Wow, your audio has just been destroyed.
Right as you said, he's a bit of an incoherent mess.
Your audio transformed into an incoherent mess. The spirit of the monster is watching
you're saying Jordan Peterson is basically Pat Robertson without the Alzheimer's.
Yeah, but essentially, to be fair though, would you take him or Ben Shapiro?
Ugh, I think I prefer Jordan Peterson about Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Jordan Peterson is that he's an academic, and he has legitimacy in, I think it's clinical psychology.
Yeah.
But the thing is, none of his talks that people love, people bring his talks and they're like, oh, these talks are great. None of them are ones on clinical psychology. None of them are in a field of his study.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are in fields he's never studied a day in his life.
Yeah. Although to be
I'm gonna Oh, sorry.
Noam Chomsky's best talks are not in the field of linguistics.
Mm.
So between Peter,
because they're probably really good. Because if they wrote books that were confined to what they did in their specialty, then they probably would be sort of. Because I know that one example is Camille Parley.
No, but I'm saying it's Jordan Peterson. I'm saying though that Jordan Peterson specifically is a hack because it's a subject that he doesn't even study that he's doing. Noam Chomsky at least has understandings of politics and does actually pay attention to politics. That's not Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson talking about sociology. He actually
modern neo-Marxism.
As if he actually has studied sociology is a lot different than Noam Chomsky talking about politics that he may not be an expert in, but he has some experience and some knowledge.
So between Peterson and Richard Spencer, an educated idiot versus a regular idiot.
Punch them both, I guess.
I would punch them both, but I would like to sit back, point at them, and laugh how much of an idiot they are.
Yeah,
because Peterson is one of those ones who's a good. He's very good for me.
I see Richard Spencer, and I really just want to fucking. immediately the Attitude Era pops into my mind with like fucking The Rock hitting somebody over the head with a steel chair. Fucking, I would relish in the fucking chance to do that to Richard Spencer. Just take a steel chair and hit him over the head.
I'm reminded when I see him of just like a layer of slime. Like imagine you've made a meal and like you spilt it over your side, and instead of cleaning it up, you left it there for a few days, and then you come back a few days later and like rub your finger along it, and you just get all this grease and like disgusting gunk all over your finger. That's Richard Spencer right there.
Yeah. But I immediately I'm just like, when I think of what I want to do when I see Richard Spencer, I want to take like it would be such a theatrical thing to do, to just go up to him like it's the fucking WWE Attitude Era and just fucking smash a chair over his head.
Or do this, just throw him Thunderdome.
I'm assuming you guys like at least know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, those folding chairs that were actually made out of aluminum, but were suddenly steel as soon as they were hit over someone's head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just going, swinging, hitting one of those, like that would be such a theatrical way to hit him. A bat technically is more effective, but it's less theatrical.
Yeah.
Or
because I was toying with the idea of like, I don't know, because I've got this running joke where like I've got the 13th rule of Jordan Peterson, and it's just called like no pudding until you eat your vegetables, and the whole chapter is about like it's about like the delayed gratification, and so like what's the pathway, the reward pathway, and then
what's funny is that would probably be the most like actually legitimate chapter of like Jordan Peterson's fucking book.
But then it's like
if that chapter
like
existed.
Yeah. And it's like mice, how they have to go through a maze to get like a piece of cheese or whatever, and then there's the reward pathway that it's got something to do with the neuro, something like that. So basically we're like mice because we'll go through things if we want to have a treat or something like that, or if we want
I will say one thing though about delayed gratification is that you shouldn't take it too far and be like, well, no. I really want ice cream, but I'm on a diet, so I can't have any ice cream at all. No, just fucking cheat. Have ice cream. You'll eat less of it overall because, you'll be like, okay, I had a pint of ice cream that satisfies my craving, instead of 3 days later being like, okay, I'm going to get a half gallon of it and I can satisfy my craving a few times, but instead eating the whole half gallon of it and being like,
but have you
I'm very disappointed in being...
First.
Yeah, instead of being like, I'm very disappointed in myself for eating half a gallon of ice cream. Can't even actually physically consume that much milk. How the hell did I fit that much ice cream in my stomach?
Just to say, I'm going to look at wrapping this up at about 2 in the morning. So that's 20 minutes or so. Yeah. So,
I've got to be to work in the morning, so no complaints from me over here.
Oh, and someone wants to join them. I'm just going to add them. Their names they're Red Chilean.
Red Chilean. He was on my.
I see him in a lot.
Red Chilean. Yeah, he was on one of my streams.
Look what's happened to Richard Spencer though. He's just been on a complete decline in 2018. Can't go to speeches anymore because of Antifa. Constantly in hiding. Kicked out of gyms, and now he's so poor that he can't afford a $4.25 drink.
And the thing is, like, because he did
afford a $4.25 drink,
all he needs is just like $5, and then he doesn't have to pay an extra 50 cents for a credit card charge. If you look at the receipt, you see that.
Yeah.
Can we play the world's smallest fiddle now?
I'm playing it already, and it's world's smallest violin, not fiddle, but yeah.
Well, a fiddle and a violin are both the same musical family, aren't they?
Yeah, but they make very distinct sounds.
And
used on different occasions.
True that. My fiance plays a violin, and she hates it when I call it fiddle.
When the devil goes down to Georgia, he isn't looking for someone to play violin against him. He's looking for someone to play a fiddle.
Oh my god!
There's the difference.
Oh yeah.
On a slightly unrelated.
But I mean, even then, technically, if you want to spread it out, you could say that the guitar is in the same family because they're all string instruments.
Yeah, true.
And all of that, and that goes all the way back to the lyre in ancient Greece.
And the lute.
Yeah. Our final guest for today, joining us for the final 20 minutes, is Red Chilean.
Hello.
Chilean.
Hello.
I'm on my phone this time. I don't know if the audio is good.
Audio is fine. No, it's probably better than mine, to be honest.
It's a bit quiet, but it's fine.
Someone asked my handle. I'll just type it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you actually live in?
I am a tank. I'm just letting you know. Like,
okay.
Just letting you know.
Like,
I'm already well aware.
What I was going to say just before you joined was I had an idea for a sort of stream I wanted to do with a few right-wingers, which was essentially to roleplay as a person more right-wing than them. So, a capitalist who perhaps has less of a limit to the standards that they have themselves. So you take someone like S-Man, for instance.
You don't want to feed the poor. I say let's go out and actually fucking shoot the poor.
Yeah, but I mean obviously not as unsubtle as that and like straight to the point. But you take someone like S-Man who. Sorry?
I said I'll make Pinochet look like a liberal.
I'll make Pinochet look like a communist.
Yeah, like
what is this? The leftist Olympics here? Like, is everyone competing to be like, I'm the leftier? No, you, no, me.
Well, no. The joke is that Pinochet is
I know he's quite far right. Fascist.
Quite far right and fucking. So I'm like, I'm gonna be so far right. I'll make Pinochet look like a communist.
But yeah, like I want to essentially ask someone like S-Man, a decent person, quite right wing, but he's got some values. Ask him why, as the role playing capitalist, why should I not be able to surpass them? It's a free market. I am free to.
Why can I not sell my child into sex slavery?
Oh God.
Are you trying to control what I do with my own money?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just really that just brings up like the ANCAPs who like will legitimately argue like that you should be able to do that, like
because it's like tyranny or something if you don't let them.
Like I remember speaking to I think I can't remember when Humane Mind.
The Humane Mind. I could say some things about Humane Mind. Yeah. I lose my shit in one of the streams with Humane Mind. He tried to put the alt-right on the left because the alt-right are collectivists, just like Black Lives Matters. I literally said right on the stream, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, but he is.
I'll tell you this: Humane Mind is an arrogant douchebag.
Yeah, essentially.
He's very arrogant, and he constantly harasses me all the time. On my YouTube channel and on my YouTube comments, he's like, blah 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 blah.
It's because you're an effeminate degenerate. Your name says it. Effeminate degenerate.
Humane's like he's an anarcho-capitalist in quotation marks. And I'm like, in one of our streams, in the debate we had about capitalism, I'm like, because people want to commodify the world for profit, oil is being extracted out of many places, including in the near future, potentially Antarctica. And he's like, oh, good. He's like, just doesn't even care that like the ice caps are going to be like, dug up to get oil. Like, it's terrible.
Owen, you didn't do it the S-Man way. You got to be more nasally when you do it. Like, good.
Red shit.
Liberation Army.
Sorry?
You got to do his nasally voice a bit.
So you both speak at the same time?
I said you're not doing S-Man's voice right. You got to have a little bit of nasaliness in it. He has a nasal voice.
And then who was the other person who started speaking at the same time?
Richard, let's let Trian speak. He's a bit low though, but Richard, you have the floor now.
Thank you. You mentioned like they're gonna start doing oil rigging in Antarctica, and I said, when are we gonna get a penguin liberation army?
You know what? You know what? We need to organize the penguins.
Of course.
I mean, it's actually getting to like the point where I'm almost legitimately thinking like that might be like it would be a really ridiculous thing to have to.
Yeah, but like the fact that these ANCAPs, they're like, oh yeah, we're anarchists. We want to overthrow the hierarchical things. Oh, what hierarchies and power structures are you going to overthrow? Well, actually, just the state. So you're going to get rid of.
Well, I mean, even then, they don't actually claim to oppose hierarchies. They claim to just.
Their thing is that like they oppose interactions that are involuntary. So, like basically, they have a conception of like,
so
they have a conception of like human like relationships and like society as being like a series of contracts that you're either forced into or you enter into voluntarily, and so they just want human relationship voluntary contracts essentially.
Like the whole point of like anarchy is the overhaul of order and social structuring and stuff and the oppressive systems, and their whole stick essentially seems to be, oh well, we're gonna ramp that on, we're gonna hammer down that oppression, make it so that we can just do it even further. They are essentially just fascists who just come up with a fancy new name for it. And
I don't know if I would call them fascists because they're pretty entrenched in like the liberal ideology of like we need to protect liberty and property rights.
The free
well, not even just that. We need to protect like liberty and property rights and all of this voluntary association. So it's kind of more of like an extreme liberalism where it's like basically we want the only way to protect liberty and property rights is to basically give complete domain and like power to the people who have property rights.
Yeah, I describe them as like neo-feudalists.
I mean, I would obviously agree that it's not like, I'm not literally saying they're identical to what we conceive as like Nazism and stuff, but I've never seen an anarcho-capitalist who hasn't either sympathized with or literally ended up in the fascist sort of section of the internet.
Well, the thing about that is that like they used to be like that. They used to like they at least used to be against fascism, but like the thing is, well, I mean that's questionable, but like they weren't like openly like, oh yes, I like Pinochet. Or oh yes, the only way to protect liberty is to like create an ethno-state. We kick out all the Muslims. Like it wasn't always like that. It specifically became like that because because of like anarcho-capitalism has always been like more of an internet like thing. It's never been something that's actually.
It's not like a serious belief
had any existence. It's never had any existence in real life.
I can say that I've seen more like anarcho-syndicalist flags actually fly around in the real world than I have seen ANCAP flags.
I've never seen an anarcho-capitalist flag fly around anywhere but on like someone's profile on the internet.
Oh yeah, so, I know. I'm saying in the real world. In the real world, I've actually seen like anarcho-syndicalist flags fly. I've never seen a goddamn single one.
They're pretty much all on the internet. Like the only exception was like maybe the 2008 Ron Paul campaign. But like so because
I think Red Chilean's trying to say something.
Yeah, what do you want to say, Red Chilean?
I was gonna ask, like, does the Gadsden count as an ANCAP flag?
Does who?
Yeah, sorry, the Gadsden. It's the yellow flag with the snake on it.
Oh, that's not necessarily an anarcho-capitalist thing. In fact, that was like popularized by the Tea Party movement, which was like heavily like they were definitely for government interference into the economy, but So like basically like, and since the so anarcho-capitalism is mainly an internet thing, and so since the alt-right has been generally an internet thing, but I mean there's been like the traditionalist, the traditionalist youth party or whatever it's called or was called, but like it's
name.
Yeah, it is so much.
It's more or less, but it's been generally an internet thing. And so like basically what has happened is the alt-right has like swallowed up a bunch of like online right-wing tendencies, and so like basically a bunch of ANCAPs, like the majority probably have been assimilated into like alt-rightism.
Of course, yeah, but I would add that well, it's obviously true that like I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no difference between a fascist and an ANCAP, but
sure,
there's still
fascism actually exists.
yeah, exactly. But if you ask someone, "Are you a fascist?" even the most far right people aren't going to say they are, either through optics or because they genuinely don't believe it. Like, however, I still think that the link, ultimately, is still really close to being there. Like, I go back to my example of Humane, who is quite clearly has some questionable views about society. You speak to a lot of really right-wing people in America, and it's quite clear that they've got ideas that wouldn't look out of place in a fascist government. And yeah, they may well say, "Oh, well, we oppose big government and we oppose intervention and stuff," but the second they actually think about their ideas, and yeah, absolutely, they jump right back into the idea of using enforcement to protect their stuff, because ultimately, who's going to protect their private property? Who's going to enforce?
Are they like the turf is a slayer?
No, they don't. Like anarcho-capitalists don't even care about, like, they think feminism is like bad. Like, they think that like feminism, like in general, like a lot of them probably, since they're like all been alt-rightized, a lot of them probably think that like, oh yeah, women should like be submissive to men, but like they probably believe in all that like alpha male bullshit. But like so there's
But I mean, they also do hate trans people, just generally.
To add to what Owen was saying, it is true. Like even before like the alt-right like kind of swallowed up ANCAPs, Herman Hoppe, who's actually popular with a lot of ANCAPs, he has been for a long time. And he thinks that monarchy is better than democracy. He thinks that like black people are economically inefficient inherently, and white people are more economically efficient.
Oh yeah, that was one of Voltaire's favorite thinkers.
Is he trying to grab is he trying to take anti-communism to its logical conclusion? Just like, let's do historical materialism but backwards.
I mean, I guess you could interpret it that way.
And with that, I'm going to sort of head this to a bit of a conclusion, because we're coming up to 2-ish. It's been absolutely brilliant having all of you on here. Reg today, and I'm.
Thank you, Owen, and congrats for making 500 subs.
Thank you. I'll have to do more streams because Reg today, and it was a shame you got here so late. Otherwise, you'd be able to sort of speak more.
I was reading a book by Lenin that was it survived the Pinochet book burning. So I was very excited to get my hands on that one.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope you've been enjoying it. I can't say I've read much of Lenin or any really, but I'm sure from the sounds of it, he's a very interesting scholar. So I want to at some point.
At your Twitter bio later.
What?
I'm gonna throw shade at your Twitter bio later.
Ah, nice, brilliant.
Oh, it's a rite of passage.
And I hope you make 1,000 subs.
Not too much coffee.
Anyway, it's been excellent having all of you here. Go and sub to all these people, even if they don't have channels. Just go and subscribe to them.
My channel's dead. I don't have the time to upload videos anymore.
No, do sub to my channel because I've been working on like a scripts or like reviews and stuff like that. I should tonight put up a review of like of Infinity War is a non-spoiler review of Infinity War. It's really good, and a spoiler review of Infinity War and stuff like that. So you do sub to my channel, I will try to do more stuff on there, like Lonely Wolf has encouraged me to do. Yes, I will do more stuff, and yes, and sub to everyone else's channel. Sub to Lonely Wolf 1980. Sub to American Anarchist. Sub to Social Revolution. Sub to the Infinite Degenerate. Patrick, if you have a channel, sub to his channel as well. And is that everyone? I think that is. Yeah.
So sub to me because I'm a sub whore and I like to have my ego fed. Also, I'm going to be having a hangout with Mexi on the 24th of May.
You're really
love Mexi, yeah.
And even if you don't like me, if you don't like the Lonely Wolf, like you can like the bird.
At least up to his channel for the bird or his musical covers.
He was like,
hey, Anarchist.
I was having morning tea, so I had these biscuits, and he's been drinking some like he sort of enjoys the coffee.
Call Mexi a tank for you, Chilean. All right, I will, but it'll probably be off camera.
Damn.
That's when I do most of my talking and remembering is off camera.
It's been an honor to be on your stream, Owen, and congrats on making 500 subs. I hope you make 1,000 and we can be on this stream again.
Long way off, yeah.
In this whole stream, we got the effeminate degenerate, Lapis, some random geek with his awesome Mega Man hat, Red Chilean. Sorry, I butcher names up. Go sub to this person. He's really awesome. We have Piper here. Go sub to Piper. Of course, Owen. If anybody who's not sub to Owen, what have you been doing? Living under a Dwayne Johnson all your life? Please sub to Owen. Sub to Lonely Wolf.
I just got that joke.
And sub to your name again, sir? American.
Yeah. It's fine, but yeah, American Anarchist.
And sub to American Anarchist, because we all need anarchy in our life.
Yeah.
Excellent. And with that, I bid everyone farewell. Thanks everyone for joining, and see you all next time.
Hey, don't drink too much.